The ultimatum director, Marcus Chen, stood in the observation deck of mining station Prometheus, watching the massive asteroid processors tear through another platinum-rich rock. The Alpha Centauri system had been humanity's most successful colonial venture, producing enough rare minerals to fuel Earth's expansion for the next century. 3 years of backbreaking work had transformed this empty system into humanity's crown jewel. The morning shift had just begun when the sensors detected something impossible. Ships were approaching from deep space, but they weren't human vessels. Marcus had been expecting a supply convoy from Earth, but these craft moved with fluid grace that no human engineer had ever achieved. Their hulls seemed to shimmer and bend light around them like living creatures rather than manufactured machines. Dr. Sarah Voss rushed into the observation deck, her tablet displaying readings that made no sense. She had been the colony's chief scientist since the beginning, and her calm demeanor was replaced by barely controlled excitement mixed with fear. The approaching vessels registered on every sensor array, but their technology was completely alien to human understanding. Captain Riley Harper joined them moments later, his security teams already moving to defensive positions throughout the station. Riley had served in the Colonial Defense Force for 15 years, and his instincts were screaming that this first contact situation was about to become very complicated. The alien ships numbered 12, each one larger than the entire human mining facility. The communication came through on standard radio frequencies, translated into perfect English by technology that humanity had never developed. The voice that spoke carried authority that expected immediate obedience without question. Ambassador Kethva of the Stellar Hegemony had arrived to deliver a message that would change everything humans thought they knew about their place in the galaxy. Marcus activated the station-wide communication system as Kethva's message played for every human in the Alpha Centauri system. The ambassador's words were polite but carried an underlying threat that chilled everyone who heard them. Humanity had been mining in territory that belonged to the hegemony for over 3,000 years. The humans were trespassing on sacred ground and violating ancient laws that predated their species by millennia. The hegemony consisted of 47 different alien species, all united under a single government that maintained order across this section of the galaxy. They had observed humanity's expansion from Earth with growing concern, but had hoped the young species would remain confined to their home system. The mining operation in Alpha Centauri crossed a line that could not be ignored. Kethva's ultimatum was delivered with the confidence of someone who had never been refused. Humanity had 72 hours to evacuate all personnel and equipment from the Alpha Centauri system. Any materials extracted from hegemony territory would remain behind as compensation for the violation of their laws. The human colony would be dismantled and the system returned to its natural state. Sarah studied the alien communication protocols while Marcus coordinated with Earth Command through quantum entanglement arrays. The response from human leadership was immediate and uncompromising. Humanity had claimed the Alpha Centauri system through right of discovery and 3 years of successful colonization. No alien government had the authority to override legitimate human territorial claims. Riley implemented Security Protocol 7 throughout the mining complex while his teams prepared for possible hostile action. The human colonists numbered 8,000, but they were miners and engineers rather than soldiers. However, Riley knew that every human in the colony had been raised on stories of their ancestors who had conquered Earth through determination and refusal to surrender in the face of overwhelming odds. The alien response to humanity's refusal came within hours rather than days. Kethva's second message carried none of the diplomatic courtesy of the first communication. The hegemony had maintained galactic peace for 3 millennia through the simple principle that younger species must defer to the authority of their elders. Humanity's defiance threatened the stability of their entire civilization. Marcus called an emergency meeting of the colony's leadership council while Sarah continued analyzing the alien technology. Her preliminary findings were both encouraging and terrifying. The hegemony ships possessed energy weapons and defensive systems far beyond human capability, but their tactical formations suggested they had never fought an enemy that refused to surrender when outgunned. David Kim, the colony's chief engineer, had been working around the clock to understand the alien propulsion systems. His background in theoretical physics allowed him to recognize principles that human science was only beginning to explore. But David also noticed something important about the alien vessel construction. They were built for efficiency and intimidation, rather than actual combat operations. The mining equipment throughout the colony was being rapidly converted into defensive weapons under David's supervision. Asteroid processors became kinetic launchers capable of hurling massive projectiles at incredible velocities. Industrial lasers designed for cutting rock were reconfigured into focused beam weapons that could slice through alien hull materials. Riley coordinated with Captain Alina Rodriguez aboard the patrol ship Valiant, humanity's only military vessel. In the system, Elena's crew of 200 Marines represented the colony's entire professional military force, but every human colonist was being trained in basic combat operations. The asteroid belts provided perfect cover for guerrilla tactics that no alien force would expect from a mining operation. Sarah made a breakthrough in understanding alien communication systems that changed everything about humanity's strategic position. The hegemony species all shared similar psychological profiles based on hierarchy and submission to authority. They had never encountered a species that grew more dangerous when threatened rather than seeking compromise to avoid conflict. Marcus received updates from Earth indicating that emergency reinforcements were being prepared, but any military support would take months to arrive. The colony would have to survive on human ingenuity and determination until help could reach them. The miners and engineers began working with desperate efficiency to transform their industrial facility into a fortress that could withstand alien assault. Kethva's final ultimatum arrived exactly 72 hours after first contact. The hegemony fleet would begin bombardment operations in 6 hours unless humanity agreed to immediate evacuation. 47 alien species had united to deliver this message, expecting the young human race to recognize the futility of resistance against such overwhelming opposition. Marcus stood before the colony's main communication array, preparing humanity's official response to the hegemony ultimatum. Every human in the Alpha Centauri system was watching as their director prepared to make the most important speech in colonial history. The message would be broadcast not only to the alien fleet, but to every hegemony world within communication range. The words Marcus spoke were simple and direct, carrying the authority of a species that had never learned to surrender. Humanity rejected the hegemony ultimatum completely and absolutely. The Alpha Centauri system belonged to Earth through right of discovery, colonization, and 3 years of successful development. Any alien force that attempted to remove human colonists would face the full consequences of their actions. Riley watched through tactical sensors as the alien fleet reacted to humanity's defiance, instead of the immediate attack he expected. The hegemony ships pulled back to a safer distance while their commanders apparently held emergency consultations. Sarah's analysis had been correct. These aliens had never dealt with a species that refused to submit. When faced with superior numbers, Sarah completed her study of alien psychology just as the first hegemony scouts approached the asteroid belt. Her findings revealed that every species in their alliance had evolved from prey animals that survived through submission and cooperation rather than predation and competition. They literally could not understand why humans would choose certain death rather than accept reasonable terms for survival. The human colonists took their positions throughout the mining complex while converted. Industrial equipment powered up. For combat operations, David's engineering teams had created weapons that the aliens had never encountered because no previous species had possessed the creativity to turn peaceful tools into instruments of war. The hegemony was about to learn why humans had conquered their own world before reaching for the stars. Marcus watched the alien fleet begin their approach toward the colony, their ships moving in perfect formation like they had done this countless times before. But humans had never been conquered by superior numbers or advanced technology. Every colonist in Alpha Centauri was descended from explorers who had left Earth specifically because they refused to accept limitations on human expansion into the galaxy. Asterisk. The declaration, the first shots of the war were fired by converted mining lasers as hegemony scout ships entered the asteroid belt surrounding mining station Prometheus. Captain Elena Rodriguez had positioned her marines throughout the floating rocks, using the natural cover to launch surprise attacks against alien vessels that expected no resistance. The enemy scouts disintegrated under focused industrial beams that had been cutting through asteroids for 3 years. Admiral Rebecca Torres arrived from Earth aboard the battlecruiser, indomitable just as the main alien fleet began their assault on the human colony. Her task force included 6 destroyers and 2 heavy cruisers, representing the most advanced military technology that humanity had ever produced. But even with reinforcements, the humans were outnumbered 20-1 by alien vessels that possessed superior defensive capabilities. David Kim watched from his engineering station as human weapons made contact with hegemony energy shields. His converted mining equipment was having limited success against alien defensive systems. But the psychological impact on the enemy was exactly what he had hoped for. The aliens were receiving reports of human attacks that should have been impossible. With primitive industrial machinery, Dr. Sarah Voss continued monitoring alien communications while the battle raged throughout the asteroid belt. Her translation programs revealed growing confusion and panic among hegemony commanders who had never fought an enemy that used unconventional tactics. Every species in their alliance followed predictable military doctrines based on overwhelming force rather than creative adaptation to changing circumstances. Kethver's voice came through the communication arrays with demands for immediate surrender as his fleet took casualties from human defenders. The ambassador could not understand how a primitive species was inflicting damage on vessels that had maintained galactic peace for 3,000 years. His threats became increasingly desperate as reports arrived of hegemony ships being destroyed by modified mining equipment. Riley Harper led his security teams through the industrial sections of the mining station, preparing for possible boarding actions by alien assault troops. His defensive positions took advantage of the colony's unique architecture, using the machinery and infrastructure as both cover and weapons against any enemy forces that managed to reach the station itself. Every corridor became a potential killing field designed by engineers who understood how to make the environment itself fight for humanity. Admiral Torres deployed her fleet in Formation Delta, using the same tactics that had proven successful. In simulated battles against technologically superior opponents, human military doctrine emphasized speed, unpredictability, and the willingness to accept heavy casualties in exchange for strategic advantage. The hegemony had never encountered an enemy that considered death preferable to surrender. The alien fleet responded to human attacks with textbook maneuvers that prioritized preservation of their forces over aggressive assault. Sarah's psychological analysis proved accurate as hegemony commanders pulled back to safer distances whenever human weapons inflicted casualties. These aliens had ruled the galaxy through intimidation rather than actual combat experience against determined resistance. David completed his analysis of captured alien technology from the wreckage of destroyed scout ships. Human engineers had always excelled at reverse engineering anything they could get their hands on, and hegemony systems were no exception. Within hours, his teams had identified critical weaknesses in alien shield generators and weapon systems that could be exploited by human creativity. Marcus coordinated the colony's defense from the command center, while receiving updates from every section of the mining operation. The converted industrial equipment was performing beyond all expectations, but ammunition and power reserves were being depleted rapidly. The human colonists were buying time for Admiral Torres to position her military vessels for maximum tactical advantage. The breakthrough came when Alina Rodriguez led a boarding party against a damaged hegemony cruiser that had drifted too close to the asteroid belt. Her marines fought through alien corridors designed for species that had never experienced close combat, capturing control of the vessel's main computer systems. The intelligence gathered from enemy databases revealed information that would change the course of the entire conflict. Sarah translated the captured alien records with growing excitement as she discovered the truth about hegemony civilization. The 47-member species had never actually fought a war against each other or any external enemy. Their entire military consisted of police forces designed to intimidate younger species into submission through displays of technological superiority rather than actual combat capability. Admiral Torres received Sarah's analysis just as reinforcements arrived from deeper in the hegemony territory. The alien response force included vessels from 12 different species, each contributing ships according to their specialized capabilities. But the psychological profiles revealed that none of these aliens had evolved from predator species or possessed the competitive instincts necessary for effective warfare. David's engineering teams completed their modifications to the human fleets, weapons, systems, using principles learned from captured alien technology. The battlecruiser Indomitable now carried hybrid weapons that combined human creativity with hegemony advanced materials, creating firepower that exceeded anything either species had previously developed. Humanity was learning to fight by stealing and improving enemy innovations. The second phase of the battle began when Kethfer attempted to negotiate from a position of weakness rather than strength. His communications revealed desperation as hegemony casualties mounted without any corresponding human surrenders. The ambassador offered territorial concessions and resource-sharing agreements that would have been unthinkable when the aliens first arrived at Alpha Centauri. Riley's defensive preparations proved unnecessary as no alien ground forces attempted to board the mining station. The hegemony species were psychologically incapable of the close combat required for successful boarding actions against an enemy that fought back with coordinated resistance. Their entire military doctrine was built around remote intimidation rather than direct physical confrontation. Marcus rejected every alien offer for negotiated settlement. while human forces pressed their tactical advantages throughout the asteroid belt. The mining colony had become a fortress that demonstrated humanity's refusal to accept limitations imposed by other species. Every successful human attack against superior alien technology sent a message that echoed across the galaxy through hegemony communication networks. Admiral Torres launched the decisive assault against the main alien fleet using tactics that no hegemony commander could predict or counter. Human vessels attacked from multiple directions simultaneously, using the asteroid belt as cover while focusing concentrated firepower on individual enemy ships. The aliens responded with defensive formations that made them easier targets for human weapons designed to exploit their tactical predictability. The psychological warfare proved as effective as the physical combat as reports of human victories spread throughout hegemony territory. Species that had maintained galactic order through assumed superiority began questioning whether their civilization could survive contact with predator races that refused to submit to established authority. Panic spread through alien worlds as the possibility of resistance became real for the first time in 3 millennia. Sarah monitored the communication traffic between hegemony worlds, while the battle reached its climax in the Alpha Centauri system. Her translation programs revealed heated debates among alien leaders about whether to escalate the conflict or accept the unprecedented reality of human independence. Some species advocated for massive military response, while others argued for immediate withdrawal to prevent further casualties. Cuthbert's final message acknowledged defeat in terms that no hegemony ambassador had ever been forced to use. The alien coalition could not sustain the casualties required to remove human colonists from disputed territory. More importantly, the psychological impact of human resistance was threatening the stability of their entire civilization as other. Young species began questioning the legitimacy of hegemony authority. Admiral Torres accepted the alien surrender while making it clear that humanity would continue expanding into the galaxy as an independent species. The Alpha Centauri system would remain under human control, and any future territorial disputes would be resolved through negotiation between equals, rather than submission to alien authority. The age of unchallenged hegemony dominance had ended. With humanity's refusal to surrender, Marcus broadcast the victory message to Earth and every human colony throughout known space. The mining operation in Alpha Centauri had achieved more than just independence from alien rule. It had established humanity as a galactic power that would never again accept limitations imposed by other species. The galaxy was learning that humans didn't ask for permission to expand. They demanded recognition of their right to exist as equals among the stars. The aftermath of the battle saw rapid changes in galactic politics as other young species began asserting their own independence from hegemony control. Humanity had proven that resistance was possible against technologically superior opponents who lacked the predatory instincts necessary for effective warfare. The universe was becoming a more dangerous place for civilizations that ruled through intimidation rather than strength, and humans were leading the charge toward a new galactic order where freedom was earned through the willingness to fight for it. Asterisk.